You got it? We're good? All right.
Action.
Sweet. Action. Thank you. Okay, so this is what we're going to be doing. We're going to be making a one-point perspective, okay? So you guys got to follow along with what I'm doing. You're going to notice that all my horizontal lines are going to be in green, all of my vertical lines are going to be in blue, and the perspective lines are going to be in red. So we'll start with, first off, they'll make the paper. Okay, so your paper is like this. It's more of a portrait style on your handout. Okay, it's more of a square, but whatever. What we're going to do is everyone's going to make a square. Okay, so everybody do that real quick. And I'm going to do it a lot higher. Okay, it's going to be higher on your paper. Okay, and the square doesn't have to be too big. All right? That's step one. Okay? And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a rectangle in that square. And then I'm going to put two squares in those rectangles. Okay, so it's going to look something like that. All right? So keep in mind the vertical lines are blue and the horizontal lines are green on this. All right? But this is what it looks like. Anyone want to take a guess what it is?
A house.
What?
It's a door.
It's a door. All right, good. It's a door, and what we're actually, this is going to be a back wall. All right, kind of like the back wall that we looked at outside in the cafeteria, kind of that one section, and that's kind of the area we're going to be making. Now, what you're going to do next is you're going to take a point. Now, you can make this point anywhere on this wall. Specifically, though, I'm going to go probably right about here. Now that means that if I was drawing this in real life, if I was actually out in the hallway, I would be a little bit more slouched down, all right? Because it's going to be at the eye level, is where the perspective point was. So it's almost like where I'm actually dipping down, and that's where my perspective is coming from. So it's almost a worm's eye view, and you'll see that because you're going to see a lot of the floor. Okay. The next step is to take your ruler, and you're going to go from the corner right here. You're going to go from this corner here and this corner here. You're going to see, line it up so you go over the dot you created and go something that looks like this. All right? Now, all of these red lines, as you will see, go to that red dot. And it will look kind of weird depending on where that dot is. Some lines will be more exaggerated than others. Please just trust the perspective. Don't trust what you think is right. The perspective point is correct. Anything outside of that is wrong. I have a lot of people thinking, well, it just didn't feel like that's what it should be. Well, it's not a feeling, all right? It's really simple. All the lines I have in red go to that red dot. All right? It's as simple as that. Okay? And remember, make it go to the edge of the paper. If you guys are drawing it on, make it go to the edge of the paper. Because I have it going to my edge of the paper. So then the next step now, we're going to do the floor. Okay. Now the floor is going to be a series of horizontal lines and vertical lines. Now, remember, the tiles are going to be, when they're here, are they going to be smaller or bigger than here? Smaller is correct, okay? They are going to be smaller, which means the lines that the horizontal lines I'm going to be making are going to be closer together. Okay, so now I don't have a ruler, so we'll see how good this is. I'm not using a ruler for these. something that looks like that. All right? Now you can put way more lines than I have, okay, but for the sake, I just did it, and you can see each line, the space in between each line gets bigger because it's getting closer to you. Okay, just like train tracks, all right, the train tracks will get closer to you, and they will appear smaller as they go away from you. Okay, now the next step, and this is what I kind of do, I kind of take this baseline here, okay, the baseline that is on the back wall, and you can measure it out if you want. What I do is I put an even distribution of these dots. Okay, something that looks like that. All right, so I put those dots down there, and that's just to tell me that, okay, let's say they're a foot apart, each one, because the tiles aren't going to change in width. Okay, so you want to keep the tiles the same width throughout that back wall. All right, it's really important that you get that right, or else you're going to be in trouble. All right. The next step is really simple. You line up the red dot to the red dot with your ruler. And this is when things are going to get a little weird. Maybe you may not trust it. We may be breaking away from the perspective, and that's when the mistakes happen. Like I said, you just have to trust the perspective. Okay. So then it's just about lining up the red dots. And everything goes to that red dot. Any red line goes to that big red dot that I have on the wall. Which means everything for yours should do the same. All right? Now those are pretty long, stretched out tiles because of how I did the spacing. That's okay. It still looks right. Right? It's still good. Okay, so make sure you're having all those lines that on the floor are going to the perspective point, or else it's not going to look right. And the thing is, you'll notice that things are going to look off. All right. Usually when things start looking off, that means that you weren't following the right perspective point. Or let's say you have a line that's not. Let's say it's not vertical, not horizontal, not perspective, then it shouldn't be on there. All right, and double check too. If it's not any of these three for one point, it shouldn't be on there. And granted, there's going to be some differences as far as, like, let's say you do lockers on this side, and some of the locker signs are tilted and so on and so forth because of the fact that someone put them on tilted. Well, that's fine. All right, you're going to have that stuff happen. All right, but the lockers shouldn't be tilted. I mean, those should not be. Okay, so then the next step is we're going to take we'll build a wall for this side here. Okay, so what I'm going to do is this. I'm going to take a vertical line, all right, and I'm going to make a line right here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a horizontal line, run it all the way across. Something like that. Okay. Now I'll take this across there. Okay, so now what I'm going to do, and I'm going to eventually erase some of these circles. You still want to keep this going. Because what I just added is I just added a little hallway here. Okay, so I still need to put these red lines in. So I'll still keep measuring, even though it's on the wall back there. I'll still measure that, and then I'll take it from both points, draw my line, and it's going to be really exaggerated. And that's how it's going to look in real life. Especially when you go out into the hallway now, you'll actually see exactly what I'm talking about. It does look very angled. It almost appears like it's vertical. Okay? And I messed up a little there, that's okay though. And we're going to put in a vertical line here. Okay, so I put in another vertical line there, and then I'm going to take the top of that line, and it's going to go to the perspective. And you see what we're making now. It really looks like that. And then we'll take a horizontal line. And then what I'm doing is I'm making another door right here, and that's the window. Okay, kind of looks like the office, all right? And you'll notice too that when you're dealing with the wall that's going either towards or away from you, that the top and bottom are going to be going to the perspective point, all right? But then these windows don't, okay? Because really, if you look at it, this wall you're facing this wall. This wall is not going away from you, it's not going towards you, so then everything on it should be horizontal or vertical. Same thing with that one too. No, you would think like this one? No, not necessarily. And I say that's not because when we're only dealing with the 1 point, you won't have another 2-point perspective going. Not unless you're standing at the very corner of that. And then you're looking down this way and you're looking down that way. And then there's where your 2 points would be. That's a great question. Okay? Okay, so are we all good? So far, so good. Now, honestly, is this looking pretty good for some of you guys? Yeah. Okay, it's really not hard when you follow just the rules. Okay, things get really, really bad when you're not following the rules. And it looks off, all right? But that's in essence a 1-point perspective. Now what I would do if you really want to, let's just make the lockers down here, all right? So let's say the lockers, we'll say, I'll put them in the wall. Usually I don't, I move them out from the wall. But for the sake of the demonstration, I'll do that. I'll start them right here. So we'll do a vertical line. Okay. And sometimes when I'm making vertical lines, I'll line it up with the edge of my paper, and I'll make sure that it's going vertical in relationship to the edge of the paper. It does help, because what happens is when you start making all these locker, like the doors, they start tilting a little bit, okay, and that's not what we want. We want to try to keep it as vertical as possible. So once we have that down, that's going to be the start of our lockers. So then we take the perspective point here. And now, this is what it's going to look like. And they're going to look this big. They will get this big. Trust it. Right there. So from the point, that red point, make that line right like that. All right? And then this is where it's going to get a little tricky, because you're going to be making a series of vertical lines. You want to make sure that they are going to get spaced out further apart as we get closer to where the person is looking. All right. I mean, we'll see how this works. Okay. And what the biggest mistake that we make is we start making it. We don't make the lines vertical, and it starts looking really weird, and it looks like the lockers are going to fall on you. All right. And honestly, I know that I struggle with this part, and I've been doing it for years. Just because I start losing kind of the edge of that paper, and I start kind of just basing it off the line that I just made, and sometimes the line you just made is wrong, and then you're going to make all the lines wrong. So something that looks like that, and that's not too bad. Yeah, it's not too bad. All right. Then the next step is I'm going to make a lock where the lock is. Okay, and it looks like this. I'm going to make it in big form for you guys to see. Literally, all it is a rectangle. Okay? And then there's a circle here, right? Make sense? We all see that? And then the lock itself, okay, is I'll make it come down here. Okay, so it's like a little waterfall, or however you want to look at it. It's like a curved line, two curved lines. Okay, and then what I do is I do a kind of like a rectangle here. Okay, and then I put in a little oval. Kind of looks like a dog dish. Does that make sense? Kind of looks like a dog dish. And then I put in another cylinder. All right, so there's your locker lock. Okay, and then you would bring it around. Thank you. Like that. All right, there it is. So that's what I'm going to be putting in. All right, and keep in mind, like, you don't have to be really detailed. You will lose some of the detail because it's going to be so small. But this is what I just want to show you by demonstration-wise that what's going to happen. So I'm going to put that in here. Really tiny. Okay, so there it is. Okay, so what I drew here, I just put right there. Now, look how tiny that is. It is going to get pretty big when we get down here. Okay, so it's going to increase in size. How you do it to make sure you're going to put it in the right size is I'm going to take my ruler. Okay, I'm going to line up that red dot. Okay, and I'm just going to make a kind of like a little bit of a tick mark where it's going to be, like the top of it's going to be. And then I measure the bottom of it, and I do the same. And this is what you do with everything, like fire hydrants if you're doing a 2-point perspective, lights if you're doing a 2-point perspective, all of that. Okay, so that's how big my lock is going to be. All right? And those points will be erased. So then the next step is I'll just plug it in real quick. And I'm not going to switch up the markers or anything like that. You get the idea. Now you could be really specific and figure out how big the actual latch is. Okay, something like this. Something like that. Awesome, hot chocolate. Nice. There we go. Punch the ticket, perfect. Thank you so much. Awesome, thank you so much. Oh yes, you have a lovely weekend too. Nice long weekend for you guys. And then here is your, thank you guys so much. Okay, are there any questions on that? No. Okay, now I mean as far as if you wanted to do like the bricks or anything of that nature, what you're going to have is those being the same distance apart. You don't have to put this in, you can though. Okay, and then you do the vertical lines. You want to evenly space the bricks out because the bricks are going to be the same size. It would not be a wise decision to make different sized bricks if you're building a building. Okay, something like that. And then what happens is, because, see you guys, have a good weekend. What happens is, then these lines here, the green lines, these horizontal lines that you've made, will then follow that perspective point. So wherever that meets, which definitely means that these bricks are going to get bigger as it gets closer to you. Okay, and then this is like I said, you've got to just make sure that you're making these, or it's going to look a little weird. Like mine's starting to look a little weird because of the, I made some of those lines a little bit further apart and some a little bit closer. So you want to make sure that you're measuring that out a little bit, or it's going to look just a little off. But what's going to happen too is you're almost going to have a horizontal line happening in one of your perspective lines, and that's perfectly normal. Okay, something that looks like that. Make sense? And then these lines will not be evenly spaced out. They will get progressively further apart when they get closer to you. And then this part too, like I said, I'm already kind of catching myself, kind of angling these. I want to make sure that they're going straight down, or else it's going to look weird. Okay. Any questions on that one? That's a one-point perspective. Now, some of you guys have you have to do buildings and things like that, and I can definitely show you how to do that one when we're working on it together. But that's it in a nutshell. You just made a one-point perspective of a hallway, and honestly, these are looking really good from what I'm looking around. They're looking really nice. Yeah. All right. Any questions? All right.